nothing seemed quite right. But something about the days with you always make the sky so blue, always seem to make the world so bright. 'Cause it's magic when we're together, sun shining on the weather, magic when I am here with you. And I'm floating like a feather, smiling, what could be better? Life is magic being here.
Good evening. Welcome to the Chandler Public Housing Authority Commission meeting of Monday, April 23rd, 2018. Clerk, please know that the total commission is here in full force. And with that, we'll go to unscheduled public appearances. Members of the audience may address the Housing Commission on any item that's not on the agenda. State statute and state open meeting law does not let us discuss items that are not posted on the agenda. So unscheduled public appearances for the Housing Commission. Okay, seeing none. Commission, there is a consent agenda consisting of 3 things: the minutes and a couple of agreements with contractors.
Chairman.
Vice Chairman.
I make a motion that we approve the Public Housing Authority Commission meeting agenda, consent agenda for Monday, April 23rd, 2018 as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Allen, second by Commissioner Hartke. Discussion from the commission on the motion. Please poll the commission.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dearman?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Wong?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartke?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Chairman Tripp Trainee?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Vanessa. We appreciate that. With that, meeting adjourned. I'd like to call to order the Chandler City Council study session of Monday, April 23rd, 2018. Council, we do have a number of scheduled public appearances this evening. I would like to ask Councilmember Hartke to join me out front of the dais to handle the scheduled public appearances.
Okay, first scheduled public appearance is service recognitions. I'd like to ask City Manager Marsha Reed to make the presentation. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, tonight I have a little bit of a surprise. Maybe about 15 minutes ago, or maybe a little longer, somebody that had told me he did not want to be recognized for his years of service, I pulled rank on. And so anyway, I would ask Fire Chief Tom Dwiggins to come forward and be recognized for 20 years of service to the city. Mayor, members of council, I would again like to recognize Tom for his 20 years. Since joining the city in 1998 as a firefighter, Tom has held every sworn rank of the department, becoming its chief in 2016. During his career, Tom has served as a member of the department's special operations team, directed the first ever City of Chandler Paramedic Academy, and led the training division in training hundreds of local firefighters. In addition to his work in the fire service, Chief Dwiggins is a veteran of the United States Air Force, holds an associate's degree in paramedicine, a bachelor's degree in public safety administration, and a master's degree in leadership. Tom is also very active in the Chandler community. He has performed volunteer work with the Chandler Kiwanis Club, the Salvation Army, the Muscular Dystrophy Association, Ascend, the Chandler Care Center, and Arizona Burn Foundation. Tom continues to be a valued leader in the organization, and I want to thank him for 20 years of service to this community. Tom, we look forward to many more years. Thank you. This time I would ask John Knutson, Public Works and Utilities Director, to come forward and make his presentation.
I'd like to ask Larry Jardee to come forward for his 30-year service recognition. In April 1988, Larry Jardee joined the city as a utility systems operator in Water Distribution Division. Larry's responsibilities in water distribution included valve maintenance, valve replacements, hydrant maintenance, water line repairs, and after-hours standby. After-hours standby is the most challenging position to cover in water distribution. The calls consist of water-related emergency situations and customer service inquiries. Larry enjoys these calls and prides himself on the service he provides. It really gives him a chance to talk to and help Chandler's water customers. Over the past 30 years, Larry has received many accolades from residents and coworkers for his enthusiasm and high level of customer service. Today, Larry continues to be the same hard worker he was in 1988. Larry is a team player, has an excellent work ethic, and is appreciated by all in the department. Thank you, Larry, for 30 years of service, and the Public Works and Utilities Department in the City of Chandler. Thanks you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Service recognitions. I'd like to ask City Manager Marcia Reed to join us. If she had Chief Wiggins up here, she can come up. So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Okay. Well, you know, you did it to the chief, and I'd like to say the chief was involved planning, but maybe he was. Okay. Marcia is celebrating her 5th anniversary with the City of Chandler. Marcia joined Team Chandler in April 2013 as Assistant City Manager, where she oversaw many of the day-to-day operations of the City of Chandler. She was appointed City Manager in April 2016. Prior to coming to the City of Chandler, Marcia worked for the City of Lubbock, Texas, the Red Raiders, for 20 years, serving in many capacities. Marcia is a 2-time graduate of Texas Tech University, obtaining her bachelor's degree in civil engineering in 1988 and her master's degree in public administration in 2000. During her short time in Chandler, Marcia has successfully met a number of difficult challenges and has worked to bring the organization closer together through the launch of Customer Connection and a number of professional development programs. She has vigorously worked to implement the City Council's strategic policy goals, helping to ensure the long-term financial stability of our city. Marcia, we want to thank you for 5 years of great leadership. We look forward to many more years of service to the Chandler community. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll surprise the police chief next. Okay, we'll let you off. Okay, next item is a retirement recognition. I'd like to ask Marcia Reed to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. I would ask Deborah Stapleton to come forward and do the retirement service recognition for Administrative Services Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At this time, I'd like to invite Carla Chitwood Bush up to the front and celebrate 19 years with the city and her retirement. We owe her a certificate. It's in the mail. Carla has been with the city since 1998. She has spent her entire career with the city in fleet services. Her role at Fleet grew over the years from an administrative assistant to basically a jack of all trades, although she refused to work on the vehicles. She said she changed the oil every now and then, but we never got her to do that. And one of her key roles is that she'll never be forgotten for is that of the shop mom. And that's a tall order to keep those guys in line. She has a huge heart, has always been there for her guys with a Band-Aid and a hug. And even the last day, I went in there to say goodbye to her, and she brought them the pizza. There was something very wrong with that, but the pizza was there. Carla has 4 children, Gabriel, Jacob, Alicia, and Tim. And Tim and his wife and his 2 children are here tonight. Her family has blossomed with 14 grandchildren, and her new husband, Steve, who's here tonight as well. Carla, your smile will be missed. Wish you the best of health and happiness in your retirement. Thank you so much for all your years.
Okay, we have a couple proclamations this evening. First one is Week of the Young Child. I'd like to call up first things first, East Maricopa Regional Council members Trinity Donovan and Dr. Lisa Bautista.
All right, a proclamation. Whereas the First Things First East Maricopa Regional Partnership Council and local partner organizations in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children are celebrating the Week of the Young Child, April 16th to 2018. And whereas these organizations are working to improve early learning opportunities, which are crucial to the growth and development of young children, and building a foundation of learning for everyone in Chandler. And whereas all young children and their families in the state of Arizona and Chandler deserve access to high quality early childhood education. And whereas public policies and programs that support early learning for all young children are critical to young children's futures and the success of our community. And one more with there, whereas teachers and others who make a difference in the lives of young children and families in the city of Chandler deserve thanks and recognition. Now, therefore, our mayor, Jay Tibshraeny, does hereby proclaim April 16th through 2018 as Week of the Young Child.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff, Chandler residents, and guests. Thank you for allowing us to speak for a few minutes. My name's Trinity Donovan, and this is Dr. Lisa Bautista, and we're here as representatives of the First Things First East Maricopa Regional Partnership Council. We're honored to recognize and accept this proclamation on behalf of First Things First. First Things First partners with families and communities to support the healthy development and learning of young children from birth to age 5.
The Week of the Young Child is an annual celebration sponsored by the National Association for the Education of Young Children. The purpose of this week is to focus public attention on the needs of our young children and their families, while recognizing that the early years lay the foundation for success in school and later in life. First Things First works at the state and local levels to give Arizona's children an opportunity to arrive at kindergarten, healthy and ready to succeed, and everyone benefits when more of our children arrive to school prepared to succeed. Thank you so much.
Okay. Next proclamation, Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. I'd like to call up Jeff Deaver, Chair of the Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities. Jeff.
Practice my whereas tonight. Whereas the main objective of the city of Chandler is to enhance the quality of life for the entire community by providing effective governance and efficient delivery of public services. And whereas the Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities was formed to serve as a liaison between the City Council and the general community in matters regarding the people with disabilities. And whereas the first Thursday of the first full week in May has been observed annually as Children's Mental Health Awareness Day in Arizona and has been recognized through joint resolution by the Congress of the United States and by presidential proclamation. And by whereas the members of the Chandler Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities desire to perform a public service by officially recognizing people with disabilities as an important element in our community. And whereas the day of May 10, 2018 shall be designated so that all members in our community will have a greater understanding of the importance of children's mental health awareness and the impact it has on our society. Now, therefore, our Mayor, Jay Tibshrini, does hereby proclaim May 10th, 2018 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Day.
Wow, I have a tough act to follow with those two ladies. Yeah, so thank you, Mayor and Council. I think it's clear every time we read the news, we see a lot of information about mental health issues. So it's great to see that the city is recognizing the importance of children's mental health awareness, and that we're raising the awareness within the whole city. So thank you. And I'd be remiss if I did not end this with hashtag love Chandler. Oh, and this is Michael. No, he doesn't want it. Michael is on the committee. Michael Smiller. Yes. Thank you.
Jeff, you did great. We're going to take a photo, and Mike Miller is a member of the committee. Thank you for being here tonight. Last proclamation this evening is National Police Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day. I'd like to call up Chandler Police Chief Sean Duggan. Hi, Chief. Okay, we have a proclamation. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas members of the Chandler Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the residents of Chandler in pursuit of its mission to provide a safe community where people can live, work, and thrive. And whereas it is important that all residents know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their police department, and that the members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of Chandler Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service to the community and are deserving of being honored as heroes. Now, therefore, I, Jay Tibshrini, Mayor of the City of Chandler, Arizona, do hereby proclaim May 13 through 19, 2018 as National Police Week, and May 15, 2018 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and call upon all residents of Chandler and all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe National Police Week with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers past and present who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities. I further call upon all residents of Chandler to observe Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who through their courageous deeds have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. In witness thereof, I set my hand and seal, Mayor J. Tibshrini.
Well, Mayor, on behalf of all the men and women of the Chandler Police Department, I'd like to thank you and of course, members of council, and really our entire community for just incredible support, and invite you to attend our memorial service on Monday, May 7th at 8:30 in the morning at our Memorial Plaza right outside our main station, where we will honor and remember the members of the Chandler Police Department who paid the ultimate sacrifice and were killed in the line of duty. So I appreciate the support, and we hope to see you on the 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next item is a recognition, 2018 Roads and Street Maintenance Rodeo winners. I'd like to call up Public Works and Utilities Director John Knudsen, along with members of our city streets and traffic divisions. Now, John, you're aware we don't allow any animals or livestock in here. This year, Chandler recaptured the Best of the Best award at the annual Roads and Street Maintenance Rodeo. This is the 4th time they have earned this recognition since 2011. So I'd like to ask John to come up, make some introductions, and talk a little bit more about the competition. We also don't allow any heavy machinery in here, John.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Come on up, guys. Our streets and traffic crews participated in what I think is the 17th annual Arizona Maintenance Superintendents Association Memorial Equipment Rodeo, and it's held in Gilbert every year. It's a memorial event for a gentleman who passed away several years ago by the name of Tom Sheets. 13 municipalities participated, so it's a big deal. There were 15 different events, so there were all kinds of things for these guys to do. We had participants in each and every event. We placed first place in 3 events, second place in 2 events, and third in 3 different events. So these guys really brought it home. The first place we have, we won a first place. Adam Klein, is Adam here? Adam Klein got a first place in the street sweeper event. We had Brian Ruiz, Brian back here. Brian got first place in the traffic marking event. The concrete team, Jacob Granillo, Jose Matas, and Troy Pekoski, I hope I have that name right, also first place in the concrete event. Second place, 10-wheel dump, Eric Da Silva. I know Eric's here. There he is. And we also had a third place event, asphalt patching team, Steve South, Louis Orozco. Probably got that one wrong, didn't I? Andy Barara and Sean Carroll. And then also a third place crack seal team, Steve Ochoa, Jesse Reyes, Jose Ortiz, and Brian Davidson. So, and then also we did get a second place in the free throw tournament, and that was Jose Matas got that. But all in all, these guys did an excellent showing for the city of Chandler. We did tie, I'll have to say, we did tie with the town of Gilbert. But I don't think, I think they were, it was held in Chandler, or in Gilbert, so I think they were, you know, something was going on there. But what a great show for the city of Chandler, and we appreciate everything you guys do. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Appreciate all the work you guys do. We're going to take a photo here, so yeah, let's act like we like each other. I mean, I like you guys, but let's get closer.
Next schedule of public appearances, Mr. Doug Stites, use of city land for model airplanes. Doug, if we could have you come up, give your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes. Thank you for being here.
My name is Doug Stites. I live at 1222 North McCamey Avenue in Chandler, 85226. So, good evening. My name, I'm here with Mike Slater and also Pat Gagnon. We represent the Gilbert Quiet Flyers. We thank you for this opportunity to make a formal request to use some vacant land that's owned by the city of Chandler. There seems to be 3 main concerns regarding our request: noise, uncontrolled access and use if the fence was open, and since prior requests from other groups were denied, that it wouldn't be fair to approve our request. First, our club is named the Gilbert Quiet Flyers because we're green and we only fly electric-powered aircraft, so we don't have the noise, exhaust emissions, fuel spills, etc. that are typically associated with gas airplanes. Second, a double lock on the gate would keep it as secure as it is today, while still allowing access by both the city and club members. Lastly, and what seems to be the biggest concern, is perception. It's said that approving our request after requests from other groups have been denied wouldn't be fair. While we don't know the details of these requests, we feel that considering our track record, AMA affiliation, and community involvement, approving our request can be easily justified and supported. And with that, Pat can elaborate further.
Good evening. My name is Pat Gagnon. I'm the president of the Gilbert Quiet Flyers Club. As Doug said, we are an electric-only club, which means that when you normally think of model airplanes, you think of the noisy, weed-eater-sounding combustion engines. We don't have those. We run off electric motors and batteries. So we are very friendly to the community. We have been in Gilbert for several years now. The club was established originally in 2007. We flew at the rodeo park until Maricopa County had to kick everybody out because of EPA issues. We continued to work with the town of Gilbert. We found another place over by their Public Works building. Unfortunately, that land is now being turned into a cemetery, so we've been kicked out of there. So we're on the hunt for a new location. We did find this one location that's the land just north of Basha High School. We were hoping to get consideration for use of this land for our model activities. It's a great hobby. We love to get kids into the hobby. We provide instructional training for folks that want to get into the hobby. We have a specific program called the Intro Flyer Program. It's covered by our national association, the Academy of Model Aeronautics. We have insurance coverage. Each member is insured individually, as well as the city of Chandler would also get a flying site insurance certificate for themselves. That's in addition to that policy for the individual members. We follow a national safety guidelines. We're all registered with the FAA as current requirements of Part 336. It's a great hobby, and we'd love to have a good time out there. We'd love to have some of the council members and city employees out there if they'd love to come and check us out as well. We thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, council, we do have a consent agenda for Thursday. We have one item on the consent agenda we'll talk about tonight. And then on Thursday, we have a couple of public hearings. Would like to have staff, David De La Torre, to talk a little bit about item 12, which is the introduction of an ordinance to address use of ride sharing and autonomous vehicles. David, thank you for being here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let me just bring up the presentation. This item is on Council's agenda, item number 12, which is Ordinance 4811, which is a request to amend the parking and loading regulations of the zoning code, specifically to prepare the city for an increase in ride sharing and autonomous vehicles. I'd like to begin the presentation with a little bit of a background And staff began the process by researching how other cities are preparing for autonomous vehicles. And what staff found many cities that are doing different things to prepare for autonomous vehicles. And the one source that staff found was the Bloomberg Philanthropies Initiative on Cities and Autonomous Vehicles. And in the Bloomberg Philanthropies divides cities into two different groups. There's cities that are hosting autonomous vehicles, and there's cities that are studying issues and adopting policies. And so in the first group on the top, and this is not an all-inclusive list, by the way, there's many more cities that are not listed in this presentation. This is just a sample of cities from the Bloomberg Philanthropies website. So on the first group, Chandler obviously has been hosting Waymo vehicles since 2016. And other cities listed there are doing different things as well. For example, Las Vegas and Reno, Nevada are hosting autonomous shuttles for transit purposes. And other cities such as Washington, D.C. are hosting autonomous rovers, which are essentially delivery robots, and those go on city sidewalks as opposed to streets. In the second group of cities, staff did not find any other city that is working specifically on amending their zoning code for autonomous vehicles. All the other cities that are listed there in the second group are working on general transportation policy issues and adopting policies on a general level for autonomous vehicles or transportation issues. Staff did not find any cities that have amended or are working on amending their zoning code for autonomous vehicles. And staff contacted major cities across the country. Staff contacted New York, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, expecting to find at least a couple cities that we could look to see what they were working on, but staff did not find any, and staff also contacted all the major cities in Arizona as well. And so if council were to adopt this ordinance, the city of Chandler may very well be the first city in the country to adopt a zoning code amendment specifically for autonomous vehicles and ride sharing. So the next question that staff sought to answer is, what do experts suggest that cities do with zoning codes specifically in order to prepare for autonomous vehicles? And one article that was very pertinent to this question is an article by Donald Elliott. It's called Getting Ready for Driverless Cars. It was published in the December 2017 Zoning Practice Journal. It's a professional journal that's published by the American Planning Association. And in that article, the author states that an increase in ride sharing and autonomous vehicles is going to do two things. First, it's going to increase the demand for drop-offs and pickup areas. And second, is going to reduce the demand for parking. In order to try to help us understand how much it's going to reduce the demand for parking, the author provides 4 different scenarios for us to think about what could happen in the future. In scenario number 1, the author imagines all autonomous vehicles to be owned by ride-sharing companies. So this could be Waymo, Uber, Lyft, taxi companies, rental car companies, and so on. And in this scenario, the potential reduction for parking demand would be significant because in this scenario, an autonomous vehicle would pick up an individual and take him from point A to point B, and then at point B, it would pick up someone else and take them to point C, and it would just keep going from one location to another, never having to stop and park that car. The only 2 instances where it would have to stop would be for either maintenance purposes or for refueling. And so this scenario would have a very significant impact on parking and cause that parking demand to reduce significantly. Under scenario 2, the author states that all autonomous vehicles are owned individually, but they're used for ride sharing when the individual is not using that vehicle. So in this scenario, autonomous vehicle picks up the owner from the house, takes them to work, and while the individual is at work, the autonomous vehicle goes around giving other people ride shares and making money for that individual. And then before the end of the day, before the individual who owns that vehicle is done working, the autonomous vehicle comes back and picks that owner up and takes him home. So in this scenario, there's also a significant reduction in parking demand. However, it is not as significant as scenario number 1. In scenario number 3, autonomous vehicles are owned individually and used for household purposes only. So in this scenario, the owner would not want to share their autonomous vehicle with strangers, basically. But there would still be a reduction in parking demand because in this scenario, the autonomous vehicle could take mom to shopping, say on a weekend, and then they would take a child to a birthday party, and then would go back and pick up mom from shopping, and then go back and do something else. So there's still some reduction in parking demand under this scenario. However, it is not as much as the previous two scenarios. And then finally, in the fourth scenario, individuals own vehicles requiring drivers. And this is the same as today, where you have to have a human driver behind a vehicle. And so there's no parking demand reduction under this scenario. The future will likely be a combination of all of these scenarios. And no one knows what that combination is going to look like. And so the reduction is also going to be partially offset by staging areas. And staging areas are areas where the autonomous vehicles can wait before they go into that passenger loading zone to drop someone off or pick someone up. So they don't want to be backing onto the main driveway or a street. So there's going to be a transition period between the time where people start to use ride sharing and autonomous vehicles on a greater frequency and start to leave their cars that they drive manually behind, and they start using autonomous vehicles more and more. And there's going to be the transition period, which may last 10 years. It may last 50 years. No one really knows how fast that transition period is going to last. After that transition period, the city can study the parking demand after those transportation behavior stops changing and it levels off. The city can study that demand and adjust the parking ratios at that time. But until that time, it wouldn't make sense to adjust our parking ratios because it would still be changing. And so then the key and what is being proposed in Ordinance 4811 is to create more flexibility to be able to adjust the parking ratios as transportation behaviors continue to adjust. For that reason, Mayor and Council, Ordinance 4811 on Council's agenda tonight does two things. First, it allows parking reductions based on parking demand studies. And second, it encourages passenger loading zones. With respect to the first change, the Ordinance 4811 has the ability to reduce parking demand when a parking demand study finds that the reduction in demand is directly due to an increase in ride sharing and autonomous vehicles. And under this provision, the zoning administrator would have the ability to reduce up to 40% of parking. And this is consistent with an existing provision in the zoning code that allows the zoning administrator to reduce up to 40% of parking based on a parking demand study for a specific use that the owner believes that that specific use does not generate the same amount of parking that may be required by the zoning code. The second change that the ordinance is proposing is to allow 10% parking reduction for each loading zone space that is provided in accordance with the table up to a maximum of 40%. Calculations are rounded to the nearest whole number, effectively creating a range. So for example, with the commercial land use that's on the table, one loading zone or 10% reduction would be provided for a commercial building between the range of 25,000 square feet and 75,000 square feet. Loading zone spaces exceeding the ratio in the table would not be eligible for a 10% parking reduction. So going back to that 25,000 commercial building example, if they were to provide 3 passenger loading zones and say, please give me my 30% parking reduction, staff would say, no, you only get 10% based on the range of your square footage and the use of your building. Larger reductions up to a maximum of 40% may be requested through a parking demand study. So if that commercial building believes that they do deserve 30% and staff says, no, you only get 10%, they would be able to submit a parking demand study to show that their particular use does not generate as much traffic or create as much parking demand. And then finally, the zoning administrator is given also discretion to deny parking reductions when a reduction would cause a parking problem. So this is a gut check that's built into the ordinance. And a good example of this may be a movie theater. Movie theaters today have loading zones, passenger loading zones, and staff would probably not, it would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, but staff would probably find it hard to reduce 10% for a movie theater parking because they create a lot of traffic and they need all the parking that they can get. If the applicant disagrees, however, they would be able to submit a parking demand study and have staff review that. Again, up to 40%. The ordinance also proposes standards for these passenger loading zones. For example, they must be approximately 50 feet from the primary entrance. A greater distance is allowed when they're shared by multiple businesses. They must be kept separate from fire lanes, and they must comply with minimum dimensions in the standard detail, and they must provide pedestrian amenities such as benches and shade. And finally, they must comply with accessibility requirements from the Chandler Building Code. The ordinance would also have potential positive economic implications. For example, it would, by reducing the amount of parking on properties, it could increase the amount of property available for revenue generating activity. It would also proactively demonstrate that to the autonomous vehicle industry that Chandler is open for business, so to speak. It would also create a market opportunity and community differentiator, making Chandler unique from other cities. And it would also reinforce Chandler's brand recognition as the innovation and technology hub of the Southwest. With that, Mayor and Council, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
David, great presentation. This is exciting times to be sort of on the forefront of setting ordinances or zoning requirements for AV automobiles. Quick question though, and this sort of sprung up while you were talking. What do you see as like a general timeline on when we may see 20% of our cars on the road as AV cars, and we have some traditional driver, we'll call them driver full cars? What do you think in your studies?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Stewart, there's different projections out there. Some say that the acceptance of autonomous vehicles is going to go really fast, and others say no, it's going to be a gradual transition because people don't want to leave their cars. They like driving their cars. So there's different schools of thought out there, and staff really doesn't really know what's going to happen. It's really hard to predict with so many variables that are unknown, and so that's why the staff's really focused on being flexible. However fast it changes or slow it changes, we just need to maintain our flexibility to make sure that we're adjusting to the changes as they occur.
Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
David, thank you for this presentation. And whoever thought of this, I don't know if it was you that came up with this idea. I love it. And here's why. I love being the first city that helps our residents know what's coming, the benefits that we can have from changing. I kind of branded us as a futuristic city. And I think this is great. And I love when we are ahead of where we're going with our culture, our society, with technology, everything that we can do to plan ahead and be prepared. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Good stuff. Council, I mentioned the public hearings that we have on Thursday. We also have one action item on the citywide fee schedule. So that'll be on action. With that, Council, study session is adjourned.